Shalom, this is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. I represent Brit-Am, Hebrew awareness. We search the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes. Those 10 tribes are a portion of the Israelite nation. The Israelite nation comprised 12 tribes. These 12 tribes divided into two different sections. The northern section had 10 tribes in it, and these 10 tribes became the kingdom of Israel. And the kingdom of Israel was separate from the kingdom of Judah in the south. The kingdom of Judah had within it the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and minority representations of the other tribes. The kingdom of the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes had within it the tribes of Dan, tribe of Dan, Ephraim, Manasseh, Zebulun, Issachar, Naphtali, Gad, Reuben, Asher, and Simeon. That was the kingdom of the 10 tribes of the kingdom of Israel in the north. We identify the lost 10 tribes with the groups that settled in Finland, in Sweden, and Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, and the offshoots in the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Also, other sections of them are to be found in South Africa and other areas. There's quite a lot of them all over the world. All over the world. And it was prophesied that they would comprise a good portion of the world's population, and they would be very numerous. Originally had 12 tribes of Israel, as we know, the 12 tribes of Israel who divided into two different sections. The northern section was the tribes headed by Ephraim, and the northern section is known as the kingdom of Israel in the Bible, and the kingdom of Israel comprised 10 tribes, as distinct from the kingdom of Judah in the south. Judah comprised the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, also minority segments of the other tribes. And from Judah come the present-day Jews. And the Jews had the task to learn the Torah, to keep the Torah, and for a period through the Diaspora to spread all over the world and to influence humanity in that way, and to pick up what are called converts, Gerim. That is a concept in Jewish mysticism and Jewish thought. Gerim, the word ger means convert. And some people understand this to mean, and some authorities understand this to mean, that the Jews were scattered all over the world in order to take in converts, non-Jewish people, to make them Jewish, and to make them part of the Jewish people, to pick up scattered souls of righteous Gentiles who will become Jewish. Others understand it more in a mystical manner, not so much they would take in physically people from the other countries amongst whom they sojourned, but they would take up, absorb influences, sacred influences, different aspects of the culture, different aspects of thought, of attitude, matters of spiritual value that they would absorb into them in order to complete their spiritual dimension in the upper levels. So that is how that was understood. At all events, the Jews were scattered all over, and they were influenced quite a deal, as is natural for the people amongst whom they dwelt, and they influenced them, and they did what they had to do, and now they began to come back. Meanwhile, the 10 tribes were also driven out of where they lived from. The Bible says that they were divorced. See the book of Hosea, and also the book of Hosea, and also passages in Jeremiah. 10 tribes were divorced, so cut off their spiritual and religious obligations concerning the Bible, concerning the Torah, had been suspended. They were considered as non-Jewish, non-Israelite at the spiritual level for the period of their exile, and in their exile they were destined, they had to become like the Gentiles. Even when they were exiled, they were already like them to some degree, to go down a level to become like the heathen nations, and then to evolve upwards, to go on upwards and to bring the rest of the world upwards with them. And that is what, to agree, they have done, they did do. Western civilization as we know it, at least all that is good and positive in it, emanates from the lost 10 tribes being there, having done what they had to do. It was part of their task, and their task has been, at least in part, fulfilled. The time has come for them to reunite with Judah, for the two aspects of existence to become one whole entity. That was the purpose of the exile, and that is what is about to take place. They also had minority representations from what later of the Jews, of the Judah and others, but their main body was centered around these 10 tribes, and these 10 tribes were taken away by the Assyrians and exiled, and they lost consciousness of their ancestry. They got lost. That is why they are referred to as the lost 10 tribes of Israel, because they got lost. They lost consciousness of who they are, of who they were. And they moved from one area to another, after being taken away by the Assyrians, or taken to different areas of the Assyrian Empire, and in the course of time they moved from here to there, and they eventually, over a period, reconverged, recoalesced in the West and gave rise to Western nations. They gave rise to the nations of Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England and Wales, also the offshoots in USA and Canada, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. Amongst the 10 tribes, the tribes of Joseph, that is from the two sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, were especially important. We find them to have been dominant amongst the English-speaking peoples. Ephraim especially was important in Britain and its offshoots, and the British people derived from Britain, and in America, USA, it was more that of Manasseh. And the 10 tribes, when they were taken away, they were virtually pagans. So the book of Hosea speaks of this, of them having been divorced, being cut off, having had their membership in the people of Israel on a spiritual level, in the spiritual sense, suspended. They were virtually pagans, Gentiles, but physically they remained the descendants of Israel, and they had a task to play, and their task to play was to go down to the level of the Gentiles, to the heathen, and then to evolve upwards and to bring the rest of the world with them. And that is what they have done. That was the whole purpose behind it. And also to receive the blessings that have been promised to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, concerning them, concerning Israel, concerning what was promised that they would become, and they would become extremely numerous and wealthy and powerful, and other blessings would accrue to them, and have done so. And it would seem that at least part of what they had to do, this task that they had to do to reform the world, to uplift the world, has been fulfilled in them. And the time may be coming close when they will have to know who they are, and to begin to return them to the land of Israel along with Judah, to eventually reunite with Judah, and to face the trials and tribulations that will come to all of the world in the end times, to do what has to be done under the direction of the Messiah, son of Joseph, and after that the Messiah, son of David. And they will reunite with Judah, and they will be delivered and redeemed, and their eyes will be open, God willing. And we have to do what we have to do at this time, is just to tell them who they are according to the information that we have, and let the information do its work. And that is the task of Brit-Am, to give the information out, to spread the information, to spread the knowledge, and to let this do the work that God wants to be done. And that is what we understand concerning the exile of the 10 tribes. That was the purpose of their exile, and that was the purpose of what had to be done. And we also had the Jews. Who were the Jews? The Jews were from the kingdom of Judah. So you had two entities, two polities in the land of Israel and the Holy Land. In the north you had the 10 tribes, as we said, the 10 tribes. And in the south you had Judah. From Judah come the present-day Jewish people. From the 10 tribes come peoples, Western nations, or at least the foundational elements of them. And from the Jews also were, after the 10 tribes had been exiled, then sometime later the kingdom of Judah was conquered by the Babylonians, taken into Babylon, and they were in Babylon for 70 years. Whilst they were in Babylon, they founded the basis of the Jewish diaspora. Many Jews settled in Babylon. After 70 years, some of them returned and recreated the kingdom of Judah, the province of Judea. And that too was later destroyed by the Romans. And the Jews were scattered all over the earth, especially in the West and in Christian and Muslim regions, because the Christians represent the powers of Edom, Esau, and the Muslims, that of Ishmael. Both of these had God-given biblical tasks to fulfill, and the Jews amongst them were there, according to the Talmud, in order to gather in converts. To gather in converts, Gerim. And there are those who take this literally. The task of the Jewish people was to bring in strangers, non-Israelites, to convert them, to make them part of the Jewish people. Because you have people, even though most of the pagans and the heathens may not be the best, the best of the crop, one can say, you have good seed there that had to be gathered in, converted and brought into the Jewish nation. That is according to one understanding. Another understanding is that it means on the spiritual level that there were sparks of holiness, concepts, understandings of reality amongst the Gentiles. And the Jews had to go down and intermix with them and take in these sparks of holiness and absorb them and incorporate them in their understanding of the world. And this is what they did do. To some degree, it's what they have done. And they also took in converts. And many of the converts came in and went out. There's also a tradition that when you had periods when the Jews would take in a lot of converts, and there were periods like that, the periods when they took in a lot, periods when they took in hardly any, because it was seen, because the Gentiles didn't like their own kind of becoming Jewish, so they used to persecute the Jews. So after a period of widespread conversions, there would often come another period of persecutions, when those who had recently converted would leave. It was too much for them and they would leave. And only the toughest and the strongest would remain. The really genuine converts would remain, and they would strengthen the Jewish people. So that is different ways of looking at the reality. And if you look at the Jews, they do have elements from all over the world within them. But they're also quite homogeneous. They look similar to each other, have similar traits, similar characteristics. Even their DNA, to a good degree, is similar. The main strain of the Jewish people remained whole, with additions. And apparently they too have fulfilled what they had to do, and they have begun to return and found the state of Israel. And the state of Israel now has more than half the Jewish population. And eventually the state of Israel will all join up with the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes too have begun to complete the task that they had, and they too will return. And they will link up with Judah, and they will create one nation, one kingdom, as described in the Bible, such as in Ezekiel 37 and other passages. As it said, I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, And one king shall be king to them all, and there shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided to two kingdoms any more. See Ezekiel 37, 16 to 24. They will become one nation. Israel and Judah will reunite and become one whole entity that will lead mankind upwards and forwards. And God willing, it will be good for all of us. Thank you.